Hey, good afternoon. It's 3:01 p.m. on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021, and I'll call this meeting of the Englewood Environmental Foundation to order. Can you please take the roll?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Director Underhill.
Present.
Director Lowe.
Present.
And Director DeAndre.
Present. All right, we have a quorum. So with that, is there anyone on the line wishing to speak to public comment? Does not appear to be. So we'll move on and consider approval of the minutes from the August 2nd meeting of 2021. Does anybody have any changes or questions regarding the minutes? This was where we had the consideration of the framework agreement discussion. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I will second that.
Thank you. So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take the roll, please, or the vote.
Yep. Director Underhill.
Yes.
Director Lowe.
Yes.
And Director DeAndre.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we have several items under new business. So we'll first consider the McBride electrical change order. And John, if you could just give us just a brief overview on that, please.
Good afternoon. I'm trying to get my camera to work here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, for some reason my camera is not coming on. So the McBride change order, so since the first of the year, we've had quite a bit of costs associated with multiple electrical repairs throughout the site. I think to date, as I drafted the change order, we're upwards to $40,000 on electrical repairs associated with anywhere from normal wear and tear, that items that just haven't been addressed in the past, to vandalism, and other items such as there was about 60 light poles that were needed to be addressed throughout the retail parking lot areas. So there was quite a bit of stuff. I mean, we've been really busy this year trying to keep up with just keeping everything updated, and it kind of I broke it out with what we spent to date, and like I said, it was about upwards of $40,000 in this package. I think that there's kind of like a line by line item of some of these bigger invoices that we've had. So recommending to add an additional $25,000 just to cover anything else that comes up this season going into the winter months for Christmas lights and things of that nature.
Were we also planning, or did we get reimbursement for that one electrical expense where the site manager had punctured some of the electrical work underground?
I have not followed up with them. I sent them multiple notices that this had occurred and that we are going to be addressing it, but I have not yet formally sent them a bill.
Okay, yeah, so we are pursuing, I forget the amount of that, John. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but we did have some electrical work that we feel is reimbursable due to the neglect of one of our tenants, or the tenants on the east site. So we'll be seeking reimbursement for that. So I think, John, you can request, or excuse me, Director Lowe, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Before we approve the new contract additional change order, I have a question about the budget. We have 2021 budget, thank you for sending that, and we're going to discuss the budget on Monday. I also saw a column amended the budget. I know one reason for the increase, I call that spending plan, is because snow removal. And we also increased electrical maintenance from 40,000 to 75,000. Is that part of this request is in a new spending plan? You guys don't have this in front of you. There's a common area maintenance budget for 2021 and 2022. Mrs. Maria, this
Yeah, I guess, you know, we had the additional expenses for the snow removal, which put us significantly over budget. Those were unavoidable. So I think that's why we need to get together and talk about, you know, what is the rest of our budget for 2021 and then going into 2022 as well.
okay. So we'll have a more detailed conversation on Monday then. But if
Correct.
we have credit carry forward from 2020, that can help with some of the additional costs for 2020.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we need to discuss is how do we, so like for this, what happened this past year with the snow, do we increase the budget for snow removal and then charge an additional amount? Do we try and go back on our CAM agreements and charge people for that known additional cost? That's where I'd like to get Kevin's opinion and input as well as yours on that.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a known, you know, we spent extra $230,000. Should the other CAM, should EAF bear those costs, or should all the CAM people, property owners, bear that cost? I think is a question.
Yes, that's a good thought. It happened to my HOA.
And I think the intent here is really, you know, that we did do some work, as John mentioned, with the electrical that has just been put off for the time. So really the remaining dollars would only be for things that come up that are absolutely necessary to address. So I think the 25,000 is a maximum, but with the intent that we would minimize that dollar amount, knowing that the overall EAF budget is already severely taxed.
Okay, thank you.
Would you agree with that, John? Oh, is he on? Did he drop off? Oh, looks like he dropped off. All right. So we'll wait for him to come back on, but with that, I would, he's coming back on. He just got kicked off, he said, so. So with that, I would make a motion to approve the change order with McBride Electrical for an additional $25,000 with the understanding that that would only be used for unexpected issues or anything absolutely necessary for the remainder of 2021.
I will second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Need to please take a vote on that, Michelle?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Lowe,
Yes.
and Director DeAndre.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So the next three items, talk about those just in general, are related to our service renewal contracts for the landscaping of EAF, the on-site security, as well as the snow removal. And we'll take those individually, but I did have some questions for John on each of those. So if you wouldn't mind, we'll just wait for him to jump back on.
So Maria, are these contract terms are from October 2021 to September 2022.
Correct. Yeah. So we'd start, and these have to go to council as well. So I believe John's targeting either probably the second meeting in September to bring these to council for approval. So it'd start October 1st through September of next year. Correct.
And council was talking about to dissolve these. So if these will be dissolved earlier than the contract term.
That's a good question. If we do dissolve EAF, there are provisions in each of the contracts that we have, like, I want to say 30 or 60 days notice where we can terminate the contract with each of them. So I think we're safe there for some reason that the EAF would dissolve before then.
Okay.
Mhm. All right, John's back on.
Sorry about
John,
that.
we just, I gave just a little bit of an overview, but could you talk a little bit? I think one of the questions for me for each of these memos is, are they honoring the prices from our current year, or are they increasing? And if they're increasing, by how much?
Yes, so let's see. TerraCare. So TerraCare's rates went up very marginally. I think it was 3%. Everything that I discovered in requesting renewals was on average 3 to 3.5% from the previous year.
And does the contract with TerraCare allow for that increase?
I don't believe it says it does not. I don't recall seeing that language in it.
Okay, so before council, I think it's important to just verify with Dugan that that's the case, because I could see that being a question raised, and so making sure what is the percent increase, or what are the individual line item increases, and yet we're keeping the same dollar amount for TerraCare, it looks like, overall. So the total you feel that you're comfortable with, even with the increases?
Yes, it's very marginal. I mean, it's roughly, like TerraCare, for instance, like rate, like $800 annual was the increase total.
Michelle, can you scroll down to that section, please, with TerraCare?
A little bit further.
Okay.
So the next page after that. So this is all based on things that they do. So this is all basic stuff, the normal fees. So the previous, if you can go down a little bit more. The previous 2021 rates were, sorry, go back up. I'm sorry, the bottom of the unit price sheet. Right, yeah, right there. So that's the current with the 3.5%. The previous was 141,086 and 5 cents. So it's very marginal.
So do we need to do the contract for 250 if we're roughly 140?
The reason why we did the 250 is so we can catch up on the major projects that we looked at, the landscaping. I think we're trying to get some planning on next year for some tree replacements. So that was the intent, to have the budget, the contract match the budget number, so we can have opportunities to do projects such as we did this year.
Okay.
But John, if that's the case, could you add additional projects that will be covered under the additional $100,000?
Yeah, the projects that we would be considering would fit within that 250 budget.
But I want you to know the details, what kind of projects you were referring to.
Yeah, and I could elaborate on it. You know, you're getting tentative project for tree replacement. So we discovered there was about 80 to 90 trees that are either partially dead or completely dead. So we kind of started working on some budget numbers, and that was roughly $100,000 for the tree replacement in and around the whole property. So that was like one project I was looking at potentially entertaining. And then there's a few other projects where it dealt with landscaping beds around Art Walk, where I've been working with the property managers for that property. We did some planter restoration this last few months, which was about $20,000. So it just gives us a little bit of options as far as if we do need to do any upgrades or anything in that regard.
Yeah, I would definitely add an additional project to the 250,000. And also, John, the additional projects we are talking about here, are they similar to the project we talked about last time? The trees around the civic center? So what do you describe as additional projects or similar to what we talked about last time?
I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time understanding your question.
Can you hear me better this way?
Yeah.
Let me just rephrase my question. I will probably add additional projects like planting 80 to 90 trees to this proposal. This is hard to justify to increase by $100,000 from 2021 to 2022, unless we have new projects.
Yeah, so when we take this to council, basically try and match it up roughly with the 250 of what we're planning to use that additional 100,000 for.
Okay.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Another question, I probably should have known this answer. I wonder if it's our city's procurement policy. Let's say if there are multiple departments are using the same vendor, we might need to have a different bidding process. Is this your understanding? I wonder if more than one department is using these contractors we are going to review.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe TerraCare has done any other, to my knowledge and what I know of what they've been doing for us in the past. I don't believe they've done anything in addition to this.
Okay, I'll confirm my question with city attorney's office. So somehow I have this concept. Okay.
Yeah, I do know, in related to Keeson, the snow and ice removal, I believe Parks did have a small project with them. It was either this year or last year. I recall seeing an additional PO to separate from what we're doing, using them for.
Okay, I will report back next time.
All right, so any further questions, or is there a motion to approve this as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the contract at East Landscaping with TerraCare and not to exceed the $250,000.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All right, if we could take a vote, please.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Lowe,
Yes.
and Director DeAndre.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Let's move down to the next item. All right, so this is the unarmed site security, which we currently have a contract with Vet Securing America. And I remember John specifically, because I helped work on this contract last year, that we included a provision that that they could increase this contract on a yearly basis if we chose to extend it by either I believe it was 3% or the consumer price index for the Denver, Aurora, Lakewood area. Here it says 3.5%. So I just want to make sure that it is 3.5 in the contract and not 3. But also, what was the CPI? Because again, I think it was either or. So it was the lesser of the two. So did we check that this what the CPI was for Denver, Aurora, Lakewood area, and that we've confirmed that that's not less than 3.5%?
Yes, when they sent the revised pricing, they did include copies of the CPI information that showed everything.
Okay, so we should include that in the memo to council and make that very clear what that we're following the terms of the contract. And then what is that increase in the dollar amount from 1 year to the next? Because if it was previously, I think it was here, if you go to scroll down, here, it was 194,000 last year. We're going up to 198. So it sounds like it's less than, a little bit more than $4,000 is the difference for 1 year. So, okay.
Quick question, John. Do we only use this company for labor? Because I didn't see any materials included, so just labor.
Yes, just for reporting and reporting their findings.
The materials are budgeted in addition to the labor, if there are any material costs.
It's just straight time and premium time as it's shown there. Yeah, no labor is provided.
Okay, no materials. Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the contract renewal with Vets Securing America in the amount of $198,288.00 for the period from October 2021 through September 2022.
I will second that.
So motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, if we could take a vote, please.
Yep, Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Lowe,
Yes.
and Director DeAndre.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Then the final one is Keeson, which is our snow and ice removal contract. So again, John, my question is, have their prices increased? And if so, by how much?
Yes, and I believe the price increase about 3% across the board. I'll follow up with Dugan as well as far as specific language to that. But it had to do with fuel costs, obviously, when they priced the previous pricing sheet to this. I think it was $2.40 a gallon for fuel, and this year's a little bit different, but I'll confirm that. But that was my understanding of that. This was a 3% flat raise as well.
Okay. And then I guess the other point of discussion maybe for our group is, so the contract for last year was $280. We obviously exceeded that quite a bit due to the high level of snow. So should we make it a higher dollar amount rather than going back for a change order to council in the future?
What would be the recommendation to bump it to 300? Or more than that?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, Maria, remind me the increase, 230,000?
Yeah, we started at 280 last year and had to increase it. I believe we had 2 change orders where we went up to by ultimately an additional 230,000. So the total contract ended up being 510. Now,
Okay.
last year was an anomaly. It was pretty, I think overall fourth or something highest snow event in the Denver metro area in history. But maybe we consider, I was thinking maybe we go like to 350.
And we have the funds to cover that.
We do. We put a higher dollar amount in the 2022 budget, at least, to cover that.
I think I'd be comfortable with the 350. And again, if we have another big snow season, I guess we'll be back at council, but
Yeah.
350 seems reasonable based off past history.
Any ideas, John, or thoughts you had on that?
I would say that's a good number, because originally the first change order was 100,000, and that was just looking at the data as far as how dry the season had been up to that point. And luckily it was 100,000. It wasn't nearly enough, but I think that would be a good baseline.
And I believe, I forget when we did that first change order. Was it even before the end of the year last year? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was like in February. And then
Okay.
we got
Oh,
hit.
it was after the first of
Yeah.
2021, because I know we had quite a bit of snow, I believe, in October. So,
Yeah, we had some good
Okay.
early storms, and then it was very dry for December, January, and then I got a little nervous for February, and then of course we got hit March by the big
Yeah.
snow. So I think 350 is a good number.
okay, great. So with that, I'll make a motion to recommend renewal of the contract with Keeson Landscape Services at the unit price is listed for a 1-year term and an amount not to exceed $350,000.
All right, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and with a second. Any further discussion? All right, please take the roll.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Lowe,
Yes.
and Director DeAndre.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, great. Okay, I believe that's the end of our agenda. Is there any other items for discussion that the board would like to bring up before we adjourn?
None here.
Okay. All right, with that, it is 3:29 p.m. and I'll adjourn this meeting of the EAF board. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.